All right, everybody. Thanks so much for stopping by another episode of Real Estate Titans, sponsored by Linebolt Media. I'm your host, Greg Fowler, traveling throughout the marketplace, interviewing the top professionals in our field, essentially gathering insight, inspiration, really drives and motivates these top producers above and beyond everybody else in what I'd like to consider a real estate titan. Now, our very special guest and featured titan for episode 288 from beautiful Colorado Springs, Colorado, none other than Mark Davis. Mark, it's an honor and a pleasure, my friend. I cannot wait to dive in. Thanks for taking the time.
Same, man. It's been too long, bro. I appreciate you getting a chance to put this together. So yeah, I'm excited. We got a lot of things to talk about, I guess, right?
Oh my gosh, too true, Mark. And again, this has been years in the making. And just so the audience knows, I've been wanting this man to jump on for a long time. And I'm so excited that he's finally sharing his story, his life, as a man, a professional, and that you can take away and help grow and scale your business as always here in Titans. Mark, let's just jump right in because I know we got a lot of ground to cover. You have so much insight and perspective into the real estate field and entrepreneurialism, family life, the whole nine. So let's start with this first question. Who is Mark Davis? Where are you from? What got you into the business? And what is leading you up until today, your progression through your life and career? Let's start there. Origin story.
Yeah, origin story. Yeah. So the enigma, right? Like Mark Davis, man, origins. It's crazy. I'm a guy, I'm a normal person, you know. I grew up in California, the Bay Area. I grew up, I used to skateboard down to One Infinite Loop, the Apple World headquarters.
Oh, wow.
Back then it was like apricot fields. So we went to the mall like right across the street, and of course, nobody would ever imagine back then, like what, you know, Silicon Valley would become and all that.
Sure.
I was not really a technical person. I was not really, although come to find out years later, I'm very interested in technology and computers and all the stuff nowadays with AI and everything else. But back then I really wasn't. I was more into like, I wanted to make money. I was like, I always thought real estate was like the pinnacle of like what I wanted to do or what you could do. It was almost like if you're gonna mess with like a widget, why not have it be something that's expensive, you know? And like back when I was in high school, I'm actually super old now, but back in the day, it was like I envisioned myself being somebody that had like, this is gonna sound cheesy, but like remember those earpieces, those ear things where you talk, and I would be up in some sky-rise building, like doing deals, doing real estate. Like that's all my imagination had or allowed me to think about, right?
Wow.
And fast forward all these years and just like what I'm doing now and just where I've been is pretty remarkable, actually. I don't like to compare myself to people because I think that's a big trap. That's a big problem that people have, is trying to compare themselves to people that they see on TV or on YouTube or something. And, you know, 9 out of 10 times it's not really real. And even if it is real, what they had to do to get there and what their life consists of usually is not really what you think. So it's not good to compare yourself to other people. But yeah,
well, Mark, I want to jump in there because again, you brought us back to Silicon Valley as a young man and really experiencing life, and you dated yourself there when you were talking, but I love it. I love it, my friend. People need to know the seasonality that's behind that. Sometimes it's hard to tell, but I think it's important for people to really understand what your thoughts were. So at a young age, why real estate? What was it? And I know you mentioned the monetary or the financial sort of standpoint, but what was the catalyst to that? Was there somebody in your life, or was there individuals that you had conversations with, you know, at a young age to say, hey, yeah, real estate is it? Because most of the time it's not young. Usually it's a second career or even a third career. Most people are in their late 40s, early 50s, you know, so obviously at a young age you knew. So what was it? Anything?
Yeah, that's a good question. That's a really good question. You know, for me, I didn't have a whole lot of role models around me. I didn't really have like an older person that was like, hey, you'd be really good at this. Let's build you out to go into this career or that career, or even with, you know, school. You know, to me, in my limiting mindset at the time as a child, I was just kind of more like, real estate just seemed like it was like super serious. It was like big real estate, and
Mm.
owning real estate was like a big deal. And
Yeah.
I just felt like I want to be a part of that.
Mm.
I always liked architecture. I'm a very visual, creative person, so I was always into like, wow, look at these things. This is kind of before a lot of the stuff that's out now, so we didn't really have a lot of the stuff, the visuals and whatnot. So
Mm.
but it was always, real estate was just always in my mind. Like I knew I had to get in on it. So, fast forward many years or whatever, I got into business about 10 years ago. And, I was coming off of, I was coming off a divorce, no kids, but, sleeping on my buddy's couch and just kind of like trying to look up and be like, what do I do in my life, man? Like,
Wow.
and I remember thinking like, I had a sense of urgency.
Okay.
They say that nowadays, that word you hear a lot, especially in sports. Like there's a sense of urgency. We're in the third or fourth quarter, and we're trying to close the game out.
Mm-hmm.
What are we going to do? How are we going to get this done? And that's how I felt getting into real estate. That was my motivation and my passion. Was I'm kind of getting up there in age. I'm getting older.
Mm-hmm.
I have like one more shot, one more chance to really make this happen, this dream of mine, right? Wow. And sleep on my buddy's couch. I was watching these guys, these realtors with like, at the time it seemed like all this money, they're driving these fancy cars, and they were just, it was like almost like not accessible to me. I just thought like, man, I'm not on their level. Wow. And they used to, I would have gotten these guys their coffee every morning. That's matter of fact, I made an offer to one of my buddies who was like a big shot realtor here. And I was like, man, I'll get you your Starbucks every morning, bro. Like, just show me how to do real estate. Like, teach me. Oh, you got to, take your real estate exam. And I got my real estate license and everything. But I didn't really have any tactile understanding of like the business, how to make money. And a lot of people go through that too, because they go to these, I see like, these agents coming to these courses, and sit here in the classroom, and they're trying to learn the business.
Right.
But what I found is you don't really learn real estate in a classroom. Mm-hmm. AI can't teach you real estate. You have to actually be out there and talk to people and deal with people. And so, for me, being a very stone cold introvert to the like, dude, it was hard for me. People see me now, they're like, oh man, you're on social media, you're doing your videos, you're on YouTube, whatever. No, it was super hard for me. And, but I felt like my back was up against the wall. This is, the last chance, last shot I have. And I have to push myself into the uncomfortable and the unknown. Wow. And so, you're going to suck for a while. Mm-hmm. You got to get really, really comfortable with not being good, in anything you do, anything you pursue that you care about. If you've never done it before, dude, you're not going to be a maestro at it. Like, you're going to suck. And here's the crazy thing. Mm-hmm. People think that because they're like a good person, or they've put in a lot of hours at said thing that they don't try not to suck at, that like, they're going to get results. And literally you can keep banging your head against the wall, suck, get busted out, and get out of the business if you don't have the understanding that I'm going to suck. Mm-hmm. And even though I'm a good person, and that's what I went through. And you have to have a strong, I know you always ask on the show, like, what's your why and stuff. Mm-hmm. Dude, honestly, I didn't have a why at first. I'm going against the grain here. Like, they showed us like the dream boards, like, your why should be like the Bentley and the mansion. And to me, I was just like, this is cheesy. Like, really? Like, come on. Like, I don't know. That's not what motivated me. And so what motivated me to keep banging my head against the wall and keep sucking to the point where I stopped not being good is a crazy motivation. And what that was anger. Wow. Anger, dude. Like, unreal. I was kind of like pissed off, to be honest with you. Yeah. I know it's not necessarily what you would expect, maybe from even from your guests, but I'm sure people in their life have gone through things where they're kind of getting beat up, their back's against the wall, they feel the sense of urgency, they feel pressure, and they're kind of like, they're a little bit salty about it, like they're a little bit frustrated over it. That's how I was. And so I was like, I remember this, we were doing this, it was like a agent meetup thing, and it was like in this fancy part of town and in the city, and there were these agents that were driving these fancy BMWs and Mercedes, and they introduced me like, "This is the newest agent, and he's the new guy," and they told me, "Good luck, good luck, good luck, have fun with that," and it just was like, like,
come on,
like I just looked at it like, okay, all right, I got you. Like I'm gonna work. I'm gonna run laps around you. Like I'm gonna work, and just I'm not lazy. I'm not this like everything's given to me. I just was like, it was like a competition. In other words, like a lot of athletes do that. Like Jordan, that was his big thing. Is he was like, you challenge me, you call me out. Oh man, you're on my list, my hit list.
Yeah,
LeBron, Kobe, Jordan. That's how they psychologically use their fuel. So getting back to that, that negativity, right? Like, oh, you're being mad about. It was the way that I programmed myself to push through uncomfortable things, to push through my being so introverted and so shy, push through like meeting strangers, all the phone calls that you have to make in real estate. You don't like talking with somebody, this might not be the thing for you. And it's not just like it's talking to people when you don't really want to. Like, like I want to go home and like have dinner and like hang out now with my kids or whatever.
Yeah,
you got to make phone calls. You got to talk to people and meet people. And so, but yeah, I use that as a fuel to, and what I call like transcendence. You take something negative, you take something that is something that whatever your weakness is, whatever your limitation is, whatever your circumstances are, you kind of bottle that up into an energy that pushes you forward. Wow. It can be positive thinking, kumbaya too. Like there's people out there that like, volunteer, nonprofit, that's great. Like I'm not saying anything, but for me personally, the way that I was able to push into my goals, sink my teeth into my goals and my dreams and my passions and real estate and do deals and make money and grow was initially the fuel of it was something that was a little bit morbid, a little bit I was not a negative person. I was a very positive person, but I needed that edge. Does that make sense?
It does, Mark. And the fact that you're going down this road is incredible. It shows your character, transparency, and the honesty that in this conversation. And people need to hear it. We were talking in the green room prior to hitting record here. There is not a one size fits all, right? And there's so many different paths to a life and a journey, especially into the real estate space, as we were mentioning. And I want to unpack a few things that you had dropped out for everybody, because I think these are key points. First of all, when you were talking about individuals on, whatever syndication or show or typical location where they were, high up there in the typical food chain of humanity, right? As people put individuals on pedestals because of financial situations or the clothes that we wear, the cars we drive, the houses we have. And your limiting beliefs at that time just is saying like, that's out of reach, right? Like, that's not me. I can't do that. And so many individuals that are tuning into this, they've all been there at some form or fashion. There's the self-doubt, the imposter syndrome, that's flying all over the place. I think that that's important to note. That's a commonality and a trait. People can feel this way. The anger that you had towards looking at individuals, and especially I don't even know if you still know those individuals that you met at that fancy place with the BMW and the Mercedes, even if they're still in the business or not. But the point is like those people, those are not pros. Those are not people who are really doing it at the highest of levels. I don't even know who you're mentioning, but I guarantee they're not the highest levels, period. End of story. Because the individuals that I know that truly are, they're giving, they're serving, they're motivating, they're humble. And I think that there's a level there that people need to understand, the misunderstandings of jockeying positions. You said this earlier. I think it's important, right? The way that people perceive is not necessarily the reality of the situation. You don't know what's going on behind closed doors. You don't know what it took somebody to get to where they're at. And again, that's why I think it's so important for everybody to know Mark Davis's journey and why you look at it from this perspective. You mentioned Jordan. You could look
Yeah.
at Novak Djokovic, in the
Yeah.
tennis world, using the
Mhm.
same kind of fuel, greatest of all time, in those instances. They use the anger for fuel.
Mhm.
Now, a lot of
Yeah.
people, what'll happen is they'll get angry and upset and they'll defeat themselves. But if
Mhm.
you're able to harness that, which
Correct.
you
You're able to
do,
harness it. Mhm.
you can actually propel it to a positive. So I don't look at that as a negative, Mark. I'm telling you this, that there are people that are watching this or listening that say, I'm that guy too. I get angry. Now, what are you doing with that anger? Are you letting it turn you into a negative place and not actually fulfilling your journey? Or are you growing because of it? And you're a perfect example of growth because of it. And
Yeah.
I love that you're breaking all this down, Mark. So when you got into the business, and as you mentioned, go along to, I want to know kind of what the timeline looked like. So you got into the business, you were the new kid on the block, right? You were getting any hazing that was there.
I'm the angry guy. No.
Yeah, but no. I mean, the audience knows, like you're preaching to the choir. I mean, the people that are tuning into this now, they're producers. They understand learning from greatness, succeeding from other successes and failures. This is you're in house right here.
Good.
So, what was your journey like from that point? Because you've done massive things so far, and there's so much more to go. But take us through kind of your journey and path to today in real estate.
Yeah. Yeah. Thank you for teeing that up. So, um, it's great, man. I'm just being able to do this is like, it's great. It's amazing. I mean, I'm kind of like getting a chance because when you're doing something and you're busy, you
Mhm.
don't really reflect back to like, 5 years, 10 years, or however long, and you just to kind of think about things from like a granular standpoint. You're just like doing the work.
Yeah.
And a lot of ways you're self-evaluating. Unless you're like a professional at self-evaluation,
Yeah.
most people don't do it. They're
Uh-uh.
too busy scrolling and comparing themselves to the guy that's got, a six-pack,
Yeah.
And so for me, man, it was the getting into something that was uncomfortable.
Mhm.
I remember, and I kind of had this kind of built out in my head, but
Yeah.
I was in an office, kind of I was a new agent
Mhm.
in a sort of a mom and pop office, and
Yeah.
it was a Friday night, and I looked out the window. I had my headset in. I was making phone calls, and I looked out, and it was my piece of shit 1993 Nissan Infiniti,
Sure.
uh, gold
Hmm.
color, in the parking lot next to the First Bank. This was off of Union,
Wow.
and I was like looking at that car, like that's just me, And I had no
Mhm.
prospects.
Mhm.
Told you I was sleeping on my buddy's couch.
Yeah.
Everyone was going out to party on Friday night, take their ladies out, go, husband and wife thing, go
Yeah.
hang out, go with the boys, to go whatever, have fun, do whatever you want to. And all I had was that freaking Nissan Infiniti,
Mm.
and like no prospects. And I remember that because I thought to myself,
Mm.
all right, dude, this is it. This is ground zero for you.
Mm.
You're going to build this out right now.
Mhm.
And so the next morning, I drove back, and
Mhm.
I was the very first one in the office. By then I had a key, which is cool. They should have never gave me a key to a real estate office. I was like, no limits. Now it's like, I got nobody stopping me, telling me anything. I could just do business, right?
I
Do
love it.
real estate.
Yeah.
And I did the thing that I knew how to do.
Mhm.
And I was on the phones.
Mhm.
And the big dog of the office at that time,
Mhm.
he came in. He's the second guy in the office. Saturday morning. And he walks by. I'm like in like the break room,
Mhm.
Greg. Like this is where they're warming up their breakfast burritos and
Yeah.
the lean cuisines. That's my office. I'm in there like making phone calls, and he walks
Mhm.
past, and he kind of does like okay, that's somebody here in the office before me on a Saturday.
Uh-huh.
And long and short, he was the guy that gave me 3 sheets of leads.
Wow.
phone numbers, names, and might have been email, might have been an address, but he's like, all right, you sound all right on the phone. Call these people, you know, book some appointments. I'm like, okay. So with the ruler, you know, and a little LM, CB, APT, you all know what that means.
Yeah.
Message, voicemail, callback, appointment, right? And I started making appointments because I was like, I know where I've been, and I know that that's not where I want to be. I don't necessarily have a dream board as far as like the mansions and the yachts, but I knew that, hey, I'm doing real estate. I'm a licensed realtor, and what I learned from those early years is when you come in contact with people, they want to feel like they can trust you and you're a real person. When you come across you know too much, you're too much of a big shot, people can't relate to that. Do you know that people can relate more to your weaknesses, what your perceived weaknesses are, than your strengths? When you see the big shot with the big car and all they're thinking is there's this big shot realtor and I don't trust it. You know, they're like this. You come across like somebody that's relatable and, you know, hey, I might not have all the answers, but no one's going to work harder than me. I'm going to return your calls. If there's something I don't know, I'll tell you I don't know it, but I'll find out for you. It sounds kind of cheesy, but that's actually what I did to start. And believe me, my very first listing appointment, I never done a listing. I didn't even own a house at the time. And that was a big mental thing for me too. Like, I was like, dude, I'm telling these people like what to do with their freaking nest egg in their real estate. And I don't even own, at the time, I didn't even own a home. So it was like a big mental block for me. I was like, should I really be doing this? Like, it was weird. I just felt like, man, I'm like kind of like an imposter syndrome, you know? And, but the one thing was, is I had good intentions. I was not trying to hurt anybody. I was actually trying to help people. And so people could sense that in me. And one of my very first clients, you know, they trusted me to sell their house. I went ahead and listed their house, sold their house, had success. Then they needed to buy a house. So then they used me as a realtor to help them buy the house. Then they're like, you know what? My son, he's about your age. He wants to buy a house. So then lo and behold, then now he's buying a house. Oh, you know what? Mark, we didn't tell you. We have another son. He wants to buy a house too. And we're going to, and the deals I've done now, the hundreds of deals, the millions of dollars I've made in real estate commissions, you know, $100 million in real estate transactions, you know, I'm not comparing myself to, you know, Ryan Serhant, which is, you know, one of your featured titans, right? Like, but it's all good because, you know, I like Ryan Serhant. I think he's dope, you know. Ryan Pineda, those guys, I follow all those guys, you know, and people follow me actually too, which is actually very beautiful. You know, I'm like in the middle. I know enough now to know how to teach people real estate. And then I also never, ever, the cup's never empty. I always want to, or the cup's never full. I always want to learn. So I think so, but anyway, like I said, for me, getting into the business, being a stone cold introvert, that's, you know, quote me on that. That's my saying, you know, and I love it because in this business, there's a lot of extroverted people.
Oh yeah.
And you know, it's like, you know, I'm this, you know, I'm the man, you know. And for me, I was scared of everything. Dude, I was freaking scared of everything, bro. I was like,
Mark, I got to ask you this, not to interrupt, but I think this is a key point for everybody to take away too. Again, following your path and your journey into real estate and the success and the greatness that's there and will continue, but you calling yourself a stone cold introvert, which I love, by the way, a fellow introvert myself, you know, it really connects that way. But I think that when you're mentioning it, how did you personally overcome or at least deal with that? Because you're everywhere. Like you mentioned, your YouTube channel, all over social media, you're talking to people all day long, clients all over the place, helping thousands of families. So what does that look like? How did you overcome that or push yourself past that point?
Right. That's kind of a complex question because, you know, as introverts, you know, we're kind of, there's a little bit to us, you know, we're processing all the time, you know, and long and short, for anybody that doesn't know this by now, introvert versus an extrovert, long and short, there's varieties and versions. There's also different ways to analyze personalities. And you should not limit yourself to just, oh, I'm an introvert, so therefore I can't do these things. Right. None of that either, right? Mm-hmm. But like basically it just means that like you get your energy, typically, generally speaking, from sort of being by yourself, mm-hmm. or with a small group, or maybe even definitely with like your family. That's when you recharge. I spend my energy out in the public, out meeting and greeting and shaking hands and kissing babies and doing all. That's what I burn energy doing that. That takes energy out of me.
Yep.
Versus an extrovert, that's where they need to be around people. If they're by themselves, they're like getting depressed. They're like, no bueno. Like, I need to be out. Come with me, follow me, like drive with me to the bank. Let me go. Come with me to the bar. Like, I need people around me. If you have an entourage, you're an extrovert. Mm-hmm. If do not have an entourage, you don't need one. You just rolling. You're an introvert. You're somebody that. So long and short, with agents, the majority, I would say 70-30, mm-hmm. are extroverted people. So, but one of the things that I stumbled across a lot earlier, dude, like back in my childhood, mm-hmm. And it came full circle, which is a very beautiful thing.
Sure.
Was I'll just, spoiler alert, I'll just throw it out there, even when I'm trying to build it. I'm just gonna let it go. It's the hero's journey. Mm. And anybody that knows me knows that I'm a huge movie buff, right? Like I love movies. Yeah. But I didn't really know why I like movies so much. When we were kids, we just got like dropped off in the house. Our parents would go work and we'd just be at home chilling.
Yep.
Like young. And so we only had like 4 channels. So the stuff that I would watch was like corny stuff on TV, like Cheers, and like Three's Company, mm-hmm. and these sitcoms. But one of the things about these sitcoms I noticed, they all had a jingle. Mm-hmm. There was like a song that would come on, and I'd be in the kitchen, and then I'd hear that song, mm-hmm. come on, knock on my door, mm-hmm. or the Cheers, and I could sing them all because I have them all memorized, right?
Good.
Even now, right? Like corny, so. But there was this, and so it signified that there's this show that that you have some history with, these characters about to come on. There's this, mm-hmm. and it's called, now we call it pre-roll. Mm. Because when you have your your little YouTube channel, you have like a little video before the content comes on, like what mm-hmm. you're doing, and it's like the sizzle reel.
Yeah.
So that's that. So now we're focused on, we're thinking about pre-roll, and it has music, and it becomes sort of like your signature of like your personality, and you're going to tell the viewer in 20 seconds or less what this thing's about.
Yeah.
So anyway, I said before, I didn't have a lot of role models. I didn't have a lot of people that I watched and followed and looked up to.
Sure.
And so the people that I followed and watched and looked up to were actually kind of like people on TV and people in sports, like I watched, Michael Jordan, like every day. Yeah. Like I would put on, Michael Jordan, Come Fly With Me every single day. Wow. For years. Like I would watch it before I would go to basketball practice. I would watch it before I would go to the park and play, or Michael Jordan's Come Fly With Me, or then Michael Jordan's Playground. The other, and I would just study it. I would watch like the pre-roll and the music and how they would time like what he was doing on the court with the music and the music that they picked.
Right.
And the intro and same thing with like movies and stuff. I'd watch like Tom Cruise on TV and thought that he was like dope. Like this guy's like, he's a race car driver. He's a fighter pilot. He's a ninja. No, he's a samurai. Yeah. And he's the ultimate character actor, right? Johnny Depp. Mm-hmm. And so that was my early introduction to these things, right? Like following people that I guess basically, what do you call it? There's a mentor, but then what's the teacher, right? Like the teachers were people that I didn't know. Mm-hmm. And I learned that it's cool to like, and hopefully people find that with me, like they watch me, like I don't know him personally, but I remember that I've been there. They can relate. Like, so you can relate to another human being without actually knowing them. And as a matter of fact, that is probably one of the cheat codes to getting what you want is just start following people that you think are dope. They're doing things, and like you can like get to know them without actually knowing them. And then when you finally do meet them,
Mhm.
it's crazy.
Yeah.
So long and short, those were my only real, were movies. And I would watch like Wall Street.
Oh yeah.
I have like Wall Street memorized. I would
Mm.
watch like Boiler Room with like Vin Diesel and Giovanni Ribisi and Ben Affleck when he slides the keys across the desk. He's like, I got the 911 Porsche. What's up? And just the stuff that they would do, and that was that's all I really like
Yeah.
in terms of like a successful person. That was
Mhm.
like that's all I people around me. That's what it was for me.
Yeah.
And so you fast forward all these years, and to answer your question, being like an introverted person, you're like, okay, now I'm somebody that people pay attention to or follow or feel like, okay, this guy's doing sort of what I want to do.
Mhm.
And so I guess what I'm trying to get at is just that, the things I learned as a child and as a young person still come full circle. They still relate today.
Mm.
And a lot of it has to do with, like I said, the hero's journey, like somebody that, people relate more to people that are real, that have gone through things, that have some substance
Mhm.
with their character. And a lot of the time, in my experience and my wisdom, being on this earth all these years, watching people, is like I said, with your strengths, those are great,
Mhm.
but they're built out of defeats.
Mhm.
You know,
Well said.
they're Jordan didn't become Kobe or LeBron even without sucking first. Jordan got cut from his high school team, right?
Yeah.
And in that pain and that anger, right, fueled him to come back and get better. So people relate to people that are real,
Mhm.
and so I just thought of my point, what I was getting at with talking about the sitcoms and talking about watching, people on TV and stuff,
Mhm.
is years later. So that resonated with me.
Yeah.
I've talked about that enough now, right? Like you guys are like everyone's tracking that, right? Maybe it's you.
100%.
You're listening.
Yep.
So years and years later, I pick up Donald Miller's book called the Story Brand.
Oh, yeah.
He's talking about hero's journey, and I didn't even know what the hero's journey was. I was like, what does that mean? And when I understood it, it blew my freaking mind.
Wow.
I'm just gonna kind of paraphrase it and
Yeah.
basically sum it up by saying it's a formula.
Mhm.
It's a formula in storytelling. And I thought that was so beautiful
Mhm.
because most all movies run on the hero's journey.
Yeah.
So I'm going back through my years and going back to younger Mark and then my childhood,
Mhm.
and all the movies I followed all had the hero's journey. Let me name a few so that you can start referencing this.
Do it. Do it.
Star Wars.
Mhm.
One of the movies I geek out over still to this day. I'm just a super nerd, but like Karate Kid. I was a
Yeah.
big into like martial arts, big into like,
Sure.
I love that movie. And I didn't even know why I liked it so much. Now I do as an adult. There's a formula to the hero's journey.
Yeah.
And, anybody that doesn't know it, look it up, just type in hero's journey. The hero is the guy that's like the what's a word for it? The scrub, the guy, the hero is actually the guy that he's not the hero. He's not the big shot yet. He's
Mhm.
just the guy. He's like the little guy,
Yeah. Yeah.
right? He's
Well,
just the
and you
scrub.
you can look at that at any of the origin hero stories that you mentioned. I mean, those are all wonderful because it's prior to the come up, right? So it's
There
really
you go.
giving the root and
There
then
you go.
taking them through the ultimate journey of their success and their power. And what's interesting about that, I'm a huge movie fan, Mark. So you and
Yes.
I could nerd out all day long.
All
I've
day.
seen so many, it's not even funny. And the ones that you mentioned, I've seen multitudes of times. And even when you were throwing Tom Cruise movies, I knew exactly which ones you were talking about without even saying the titles. So it's interesting though to see it because everybody reflecting on that is we all need to understand that we're not there yet. And it doesn't matter where you are now, there's still so much to go and to grow and to change and evolve. And I think that if you look at it from that standpoint, so many people want to talk about the peak, the pinnacle, the apex of what someone can accomplish. And that's really what's idolized in a lot of eyes and ears and minds. But unfortunately, these types of conversations don't happen enough, Mark, to people to understand that the work works and it takes time and it's painful. And if it wasn't, everyone would do it. And what's interesting about the reflection on the sitcoms at a young age and then films, each of those individuals in connectivity was playing a role. And I think that we all can connect with certain roles or stories, and not every character is for everybody. I mean,
Right.
you mentioned a couple sitcoms. I mean, a lot of people would resonate with Friends, you know, if it's one of those things like you hear that jingle, you know exactly what it is.
Yeah.
Everybody's got a favorite friend.
That was my
So
third reference.
I think that that sort of standpoint connects. Now, take it into the real life and real perspective of how you accomplish the going out there amongst your true nature, which is your energy is forced inside with you, with your family, close circles, and you're drained outside of that, right? You're giving and not receiving as an introvert. And I completely understand where that comes from. To me, in perspective, I think that you already answered the question earlier on because, and this is something that I do want to address, which I thought was a beautiful point you made. You were at a point where you were saying, hey, like enough. You got angry. Enough. Like, I'm done. Like, I don't understand why this is. I'm going to just do it. Like, now's the time. Right. And I think that that's an important lesson is look, if you're an introvert, an extrovert, you're putting these barriers or boxes in on yourself. Doesn't matter who you are, where you're from, what you're trying to accomplish, whether it's real estate related or not, personal or professional. What you believe is your limitations. So if you feel like, hey, I'm an introvert, so I need to stay alone and just be with my family and I can't go out and do those things, guess what?
Yeah.
That's what's going to happen. And
Yeah.
vice versa if the success kind of lays into it. So it's not necessarily like forced projection or seeing down the road into that, but you have to open it up and just say, look, people have been there, done that, bought the t-shirt. Look what you've done in the time period that you've been in this world and in this business, right?
Right.
Mark Davis did it. Why can't you do it? Ryan
Yeah.
Serhant did it. Why can't you do it? I mean, look,
Right.
there's nothing that's there that stands out as to saying, well, I don't have that, or I don't have that, or I don't have that. These are all excuses.
Yeah.
In
Let
the
me
end
add,
of the
let me add
day.
to that a little bit while it's on the tip of my brain.
Yeah.
So, you know, one of the things I find fascinating is the process of learning and application, right? They say that like how they evaluate things these days is not like purely on knowledge or what have you, but it's actually based on how fast can you implement,
Mm.
how quick can you bring something to market. It's not so because we're so fast now, like just with the way that our world is works.
Yeah.
And that's the new way of evaluating like whether something's super valuable is how fast can it be like implemented or whatnot.
Right.
And so I think that's really fascinating, like when you're dealing with data and you're dealing with experiences for somebody that's it doesn't become real until there's an emotion assigned to it, right? In other words, I can tell somebody go do this and you'll get this result, and that's not how it works with anybody, including myself.
Yeah.
And including training agents or agents that are getting into the business or even agents that are scaling up to the next level. What you're reading or whatnot, it's some information. It's like maybe 20%, but in actuality, where the magic happens is doing it and sucking and getting your ass kicked like, more than once.
Yep.
Until you feel an emotion behind it. Then it becomes real in your brain. Because remember, you got the technical side of your brain, but you also have the creative, artistic side. And what's insane is the mind knows when you're tricking it. The mind knows when you're not being real. If you're like, oh, you know what? I'm just going to read these mantras on my bathroom, mirror.
Yeah.
I am great. People like me. I'm a great person. I'm a winner. Like your mind knows that it's not real. You know why it's not real? Because it's theory and it's data. It's not emotion.
Wow.
When you approach a girl and you're trying to ask her for a number and she rejects you, you feeling that.
Yeah. Yeah.
You're like, oh, that didn't feel good.
Yeah. Yeah.
Or when you are like nervous to go approach
Mhm.
somebody of the opposite sex, right? Let's say in my analogy here.
Yeah.
And this girl's amazing. She's beautiful, but everything, like, I have to just talk to her. Like, let's just get this over with. And she doesn't blow you off and she gives you your number and you're like on cloud nine, like that
Yeah.
feeling,
Mm-hmm.
that's an emotion. Guess what? Now it's real in your mind.
Wow.
When you make a sale,
Mm-hmm.
when you make money,
Mm-hmm.
and you feel what that's like to not just make money, but to help somebody.
Yep.
It was like, no, they're arguing with the whole time, like, no, this can't get done. This is too good to take too long. I can't afford it. I can't, whatever it is. And you're just like, no, bro, like I've done this before. Trust me.
Mm.
And you have success and then you make money too. It's a feeling that you have.
Wow.
Okay. Now this is where it gets interesting.
Yeah. Yeah.
You're doing it you're doing it repeatedly. The repetition of it is really what makes it interesting. Because now, or anybody that's doing things at a higher level than a novice or an entry level that have the 10,000 plus hours of doing that said thing.
Sure.
Now it's treating everybody like they're your first and only client, and not glazing over it like, yeah, I'm a big shot. I know everything. It's like, that's the reason I still take like handwritten notes. I have people come to my office and I literally like write stuff down. Mm-hmm. Not because I already like know that he wants this and she wants that and they want this time frame and this is their budget. Not like I already know that, but it's because I want them to feel like, you know what, he's paying attention to me. He's writing down notes. I'm giving them respect.
Yep. Mm-hmm. So
whether you're Ryan Serhant or whether you're, Mark Davis or whether you're anybody else, Greg Fowler, you're doing things for a reason. We're taking things seriously. I'm analyzing the business every single day, all day. How can I get better? What can I do? What do I suck at? What do I need to improve on? What do I need to challenge myself with? And so, am I getting off topic?
No. This is really good. I think this is going down the road in the vein for the audience to really know what it takes. If you are wanting to hit certain milestones into your life and into your career, it takes time doing the right actions consistently over periods of time, mostly longer periods of time. You'll start to see this happen. It's kind of like a bell curve, right? I mean, it just doesn't seem like anything's going and you just keep doing the same things, but you know that you're doing the right things, that at some point it is going to compound. And it's a good investment, same principle monetarily, it's a good investment as to yourself. And this is an interesting topic, Mark, and I want to dive into this because I know you know it well. Looking at it from that standpoint, true pinnacle professionals, they go through that time in their life where there was hunger, determination, consistency, doing what it takes to get what they need and want into the goals into their life. And then they get there. There's plateauing that can happen. Obviously, ego can take over. And then again, you treat people differently if that's the case. But what are your perspectives into thought to stay hungry, to stay motivated, right?
Great question.
I think that's important for everybody tuning in. What are your thoughts?
100%, man. Great question. I mentioned earlier about, my earlier beginnings and just think of it in your mind. If you're an analogy person like me, where you see pictures in your mind, just imagine like a rocket ship taking off. You need to have those boosters on that ship to get it up into orbit, right? Like there needs to be something that's a thrust. Even when the plane takes off, it needs to have a crazy amount of power and thrust to get that heavy machine into the air to where it can glide, right? It's a different strategy. Guys getting off the blocks, you just watch the Olympics, running the 100.
Yep.
They're running a certain way, a strategy coming off the blocks versus mid race, your stride versus the end when you're lunging forward, right? So it's the same thing with like your career. As you're asking me like, okay, so your thrust initially was, okay, I have this sense of urgency. I'm bringing my passion and energy, and I start getting these wins, and I start seeing these wins over and over and over and over again.
Mm.
It solidifies in your mind, yeah, you're successful.
Yep.
I have hundreds of people that will agree with me.
Yep.
And that's that becomes beautiful.
Yep.
And you reach your monetary goals, right? Like, so, you have, now you get the cars. Like, so you weren't envisioning that initially, but then the fruits of your labor manifest.
Right.
And then it's like, it's an insane thing, because it's like, dang, I want to build a house. I want to make it to where what I want.
Mm-hmm.
I want to own multiple properties. Mm-hmm. I want to have the car that I ordered, and then I had to wait 9 months for them to build it and ship it from Germany. It becomes more of something that's like insanely satisfying. Mm-hmm. But with that being said, if that's the limitation, it's going to fizzle out. And there needs to be something else there, some other mechanism, personality trait, bragging right, trophy, whatever it is, you have to find it. And I can't speak for other people, but what I can say is for myself is, man, I wish I had the exact reference. There's a guy I've been watching, Myron Golden, who's he's dope. You guys can look him up, but he's super sharp. Some of the stuff that I've been listening a lot of Doak, Diary of a CEO, Stephen Bartlett. I think he's pretty dope. And then people that come on his show, his podcast, I think are sharp. And then this Myron Golden, who's I think brilliant sales coach, just a life coach. Yeah. But one of the things he's talking about is entry level skill set, which is you're trading time for dollars. Then next level up is managerial, where you're instructing others to do work so it becomes more scalable. The next up from that goes in the realm of creativity. And that is really the realm that I'm been operating on for quite a few years already. Wow. But I'm just a baby novice at it, dude. Like, and it's super dope. It goes back to what we've been talking about with the sitcoms and the people on TV and just the different not social media, the different creative thing, music. Is a perfect example. I won't get too nebulous onto that right now, but I'm gonna answer your question. Yeah. And then the last final level is almost to the realm of like philanthropy. It's like leveraging your money and your art to help humanity. So kind of like a Bono, that dude, like that level where he's already done the creative things. Now he's leveraging his influence, his personality, his experience, but also that dude's creative, his creativity with his money. And then that's the pinnacle of that's as a human being. Wow. Children factor into that in terms of watching a human being that you created from scratch. Yeah. Like that's a trip. Anybody that doesn't have a kid yet, when you have one, it's a game changer. For sure. To answer your question though, as far as the motivation, you find new things to be motivated about. A Rolex watch doesn't quite, you could buy another one, like a different color. Yeah. A Richard Mille or whatever the hell, like, okay, fine. Like, that's great. So, but if you're comparing just that, like, oh, he has one and I don't, and I'm not a good enough human being, that's where you got to get off that. Yeah, that's wrong. You got to get on to more of, for me, let me go back to me and because I can't speak for other people because there's different people in the world, right? Nice. For me, it was the creative piece, which really brought me into my own, because I recognized, without any formal training, without even really being a creative person in school, I was more of a juvenile delinquent in school. Wow. Man, you're super creative, bro. Like, you love creating things. You're a visual person. You're a storyteller. And these are all like in vogue, in style things now. Oh, being a storyteller and being a creator and making things, like, that's all cool now. Back in the day, even guys, women are much more creative than men. Okay. And the reason is because naturally they know how to create. Naturally. They make human beings. They're the ultimate creators. Wow. And so guys, we have a problem with being able to know how to create anything. We're like, what the hell? I got a wood shop in the back. When we make some furniture, like, what create? Like, they don't even t-shirts. Like, what is it? Like, all those things. Yes. Woodworking, making t-shirts. If that's your passion, be all about that, right?
Wow.
But like for me, I was like, I'm not really like, I'm not a sculptor, I'm not a drawer. When I started making content,
Mhm.
oh man, I knew I was on the right track because number one, it satisfied something in my soul.
Mhm.
And number two, I was scared shitless of it.
Mm.
So I was like, okay, when it's scary, that's where you need to be.
Well said. Well, Mark, when you're basing that off of, there's so many beautiful notes into there, and we're going deep on this episode, everybody. If you can't feel that energy, this is the way it should be. I wish every episode was like this because it's true in nature for people to really think past, the normal thoughts or where things can go. And if you're not having conversations like this regularly, you need to get around some good people like Mark. I can't stress that enough. And I want to rewind back to what you were saying about following individuals, tuning into them on social platforms and connecting. And it's a trip once you finally get together with them. I think ultimately everybody's heard, you're guilty by association, the 5 people, good or bad, that's who you become. The same principle applies with the content that we consume and really what we're feeding our body and our minds. And I think that ends up developing it. So big deal. I've never personally met Mark Cuban, and there's a certain group of people who might dislike him, and there's a certain group of people that might absolutely love him. At the end of the day, I think that it's important that when I follow somebody like a Mark Cuban, I look at it and say, wow, look at what he's been able to accomplish in a life. And I don't care if you agree with certain habits that he's done personally or whatever's going on. At the end of the day, it's a path to say somebody starting with nothing, making it to a certain level into life of influence and financial standings and the capabilities to really form the decisions, which is time. That's something to bear note on, at least in my opinion. Again, whether you like the individual or not, but the idea is if you follow those people, you can't help but taking bits and pieces and nuggets of information, hopefully putting them to practice, as Mark had mentioned, because ultimately we could learn and we could go to conferences, have conversations, listen to podcasts, read books. If you're not actually taking action and applying this knowledge, I feel that you wasted a lot of your time. And there's a lot of gatherers and ultimately not a lot of execution. And the people that are willing to put the effort and execute on a high level, they might not know everything. And most of the time they don't. They're the ones that are really making changes into life. And you can learn and grow along the way. And I think, Mark, the way that you had stated all that was so beautiful. And from your unique perspective into your life and your journey that's going on. But the fact of the matter is that you talked about something that scared you, but also creatively lit you on fire. That's amazing. And more of us, myself included, needs to really take that to heart. So many of us want to do the easy thing, right? The not so painful activity. What is really moving the needle into our life and into our world? And I'm not just talking about monetarily, right? You look at it from a physical standpoint or a relational standpoint. What relation do you have with your wife, your kids, your friends, your clients? What does that
Right,
look like? What relationship do you have with yourself?
right.
And ultimately, I think that that's going to give a lot of note and bearance to everybody who's tuning into this, Mark. So with that creativity, and I want to give you a massive shout out, your YouTube channel, off the charts. I've got it pulled up here. And again, you're doing a lot of things. I can't encourage the audience enough to follow, subscribe, everything. We'll have everything in the show notes so everybody can tune in.
Yeah,
But
it's
you
it's
are,
one of those things you can't watch yourself too long because you're just like, oh,
it's not for you, Mark. It's for them. It's for everybody else. Same principle. It's for the people that we can make impacts on and really improve and to grow. You know, Imposter syndrome, anything along those lines. But I think it's most important to go past the monetary plateaus. Because look, you have goals, you're going to hit them if you execute. Then what? You're going to have new goals, you're going to execute, you're going to hit them. You might fall back, you're going to go forward. I think ultimately we always have to move the carrot. I don't care, and it sounds like you don't either, what that carrot is for the person, as long as they're doing the right thing for the people that they're in their life and they serve. And ultimately, they're creating the best version of themselves. They're evolving, right? The Mark that was 10 years ago is not the same man that we're talking to today, period.
right. Yeah, exactly.
The
There's a lot
version.
of carrots. Yeah, there's a lot of carrots that are hiding in there. But also don't be misled and beat yourself up too much when it comes to evaluating sort of where you are. And it's okay if like I don't have every thing figured out, you know, I don't either. But what I've trained myself to do is when I know that when something I'm halfway interested in has a fear factor attached to it, mainly because you don't know something, you know, that's when I'm like, okay, this is something that I need to learn. Because see, that's the whole thing with you know, your mindset, with people's mindsets. You know, the human brain is super powerful, man. It's like it's a universe, and what it's designed to do, number one, is protect you. It's a survival mechanism. You know, in a car, you have a default speed limit. It does that because it doesn't want you to go further than that, because it's trying to, you know, so with human beings, same thing. We have a default setting. And usually the older you get and the more out of shape you get, your default setting starts kind of going down, like in the reverse of what you want. You're not that hungry 21-year-old that you were before. Sure. So you have to understand that, okay, the reason that there's a hesitancy, anxiety, apprehension, fear, self-doubt, any of those things is just simply because of one overall theme. You don't know something. And if you don't know it at all, you don't know it very much. You don't know it very well. You're not proficient at it. That's it. If you unlock that, on the other side of fear, I think Will Smith was saying that, like whatever you want, wildest imagination is on the other side of fear, right? That dude is a dude that's like good at he's just freaking good at everything. Whether you like him or not, I don't care. It doesn't matter. The human being is just talented at like everything. Yeah. Why? And I analyze that. Like, why? Well, because he doesn't feel fear. And when he does, he has an ample response to it. That's another thing I want to get across. Dude, it's freaking, that's what you want. You want to push yourself into areas of being uncomfortable because you don't know something. That's the only way that you're going to grow and learn, right? And so with somebody like that, or even something you can take away from this, is being courageous is what we're talking about. That is actually what you do in the midst of feeling fear. That's what's dope, man. It's like everyone can appreciate and can relate and can want to be somebody that's like courageous. He has courage. That's a great trait, right? So the people that are going into uncomfortable situations or unknowns or whatnot, they feel the fear. They feel unknown. But what do they choose to do despite that? Is it turn your back to what you know you can do or what you want to do? Because it's like, oh, maybe next year. Wow. Maybe, you know, and then take it from me. The years go by very fast. And then you have regret. So like I said, for me, it's watching people and analyzing people in a, how should I say it, in a, like an open way, just being like, whether you like their this or that, just look at like their body of work or whatever and be like, okay, there's something there. Like they've done things, and you know, you start finding your heroes amidst industry people, people that are on social media, people that are doing things, and then you just realize like, okay, they're just doing the work. They're doing it. They're sucking at it for a while. Then they get better. They come back, and but I will not stray too far from the concept of what I think we said this earlier in the green room, like you called it. I used the word transcendence, and to me, I think that's a really dope word. That's a real powerful concept. And you know, we'll use music for as an example. Love it. Some of these, like the musicians throughout history, like went through this, you know, basically anybody that's an artistic person, that includes musicians, authors, anybody that's basically making something is a creator. And I think there's a lot of power in that. Sure. And so one of my favorite movie references, and I know you've seen this one, where I just watched a documentary about this dude the other day, Johnny Cash, and he's being interviewed, and he's like, play for me,
Mm-hmm.
he's playing, and the guy's like, stop, stop, stop. Mm-hmm. Is this all you got for me today? He's like, well, yeah, me and my band, we've been working on this song. Like, unless you got anything else, I got at 12 o'clock. Mm. It's just like, wait, what? I'm here to perform for you. This is our best stuff. He's like, if this is all you got, it's already been played out. This is not original, and he's about to turn his back, and he pauses, and he's like, well, I've been working on this one song when I was in the Navy, or I think it's Navy, Air Force, military, about some sad stuff, sad things in my life, some things that were not necessarily, happy or whatever.
Yeah.
And he just starts playing it. And something comes out of him, and that person recognizes that unique power. Mm-hmm. And a lot of times it comes off of fear, mm-hmm. loss, mm-hmm. defeat. He changes it.
Yeah. It's
still powerful, but it's how you use it. And then it becomes lyrics to a song. And then that song moves people. That's why people always like, I love this artist, because I remember when that song first came on, and I was driving in my car after a breakup, and that song came on, and I'll always be framed in that reference in that moment in time. That's what music has, that power to do that. Yeah. Most great artists, musicians, they're coming from a place of anger, defeat, loss, tragedy, depression, something that's negative, and they transcend it into something powerful.
Sure.
And that right there, my friend, that's what it's about. It's about chasing that. It's about chasing the what you think are your weaknesses and turning them into your strengths. And the only way you can do that is to face them.
Yeah. But Mark, as you're going down this line, I know that so many individuals that are tuning in, they're saying, wow, he's right into this instance. And think about the individuals that you're connecting with personally, anybody who's tuning in here. It is a personal story. It is a personal journey, right? And it's not all sunshine and roses. And to Mark's point, some of the darkest days end up being some of the biggest messages for people to connect with. And again, it's authentic to them. I think authenticity is crucial. And I think being vulnerable and humble enough to share that is really impactful. And I also look at it from non-conforming, because there's so many conformists. And look, hey, to each their own. If you want to walk like a duck, talk like a duck. But if you're really looking to make an impact on this planet, in this world, and especially the people around you, it's the ones that aren't afraid to be themselves. It's the ones that don't let the fear stop them from being themselves, I should say, even though there is fear that's involved with it. And I think that means so much, not just as a person, an entrepreneur, but as a real estate professional, Mark. And again, I know that we're only scratching the surface with what you do and how you do it and what is in the future to come. But I want to leave it open to the audience to reach out. If someone out there loved what they heard and they feel a certain type of way about Mark's messaging and his delivery, and this is the real deal. This is not scripted, people. This is straight from his heart and from his head. So I can vouch for that 100%. Every single conversation with this man is deep. It is not surface level stuff. You're not going to get that with Mark. You're going to get the genuine article. The authenticity is through the roof. But I would encourage you, if this does stand out, reach out to this man. Follow him, subscribe, connect in a meaningful way. Be patient. Mark is a busy guy, so he'll try to respond as fast as he can to any DMs, any connectivity, phone calls. But Mark, before we end this, because we covered so much ground and we gave so many different thoughts to go through, is there anything you want to wrap this up with? Anything you want to leave the audience with before we close?
Yeah. So I know that a lot of the guests you've had on the past, you asked them that question, and what are you reading, and and I've alluded to some of those things, but one of the things that hit me recently was, I'll build it out a little bit. Not too, I won't take up too much time building it out, but was Michael Jordan's Hall of Fame speech.
Okay.
And I've watched Michael Jordan my whole life. I'm a big sports guy, basketball, whatever it is. But he was the guy, man. He was the dude, right? And during his acceptance speech, he said his Hall of Fame speech, he said something that was really powerful. You had to wait the entire speech for him to say it, but it was extremely profound. And what he said was, limits, like fears, are often just an illusion. And I think that's pretty much sums it up. If you really read into those words, limits, like fears, are often just an illusion. Human beings' potential is untapped, unmeasured. Take it from a buddy, guy sleeping on his buddy's couch.
Yeah.
with to something else, growing within your own, and then just expounding out and helping people and influencing people is huge. That's really, we're taking the word influencer lightly. It's
Agreed.
not to move product, it's to move human beings. When you're talking about influencing, because we're all the same. And one other thing too, I'll leave with this as well. And I hope that somebody that's listening, multiple people that are listening, get this. We all have our strengths and our weaknesses. We all have our strengths and our weaknesses, right? And for a long time, that was really perplexing to me, because I would look at these people and be like, they got everything together. The guy with the 6-pack abs, or the guy over here with all this money, or, this person over here that's just so cool and so popular. Like, what about me? Like, where do I fit in? In actuality, everybody's strengths, the rich guy, the guy with the good freaking body, the popular, they all have equally great weakness as well. There's a duality there. Isn't that fascinating? So believe me, when you see that dude that's got everything together, trust me, that dude has got a lot of stuff that he's not good at too. Right? Yeah. And he's probably working on it, and that's great. But understand that people, are very complex, and it's a great skill to learn how to understand people first before you listen to people first, understand people before you seek to be understood. That's super key. Wow. So yeah, that's what I got for you. Hopefully you got something from that.
Mark, I can't thank you enough, my friend. I mean, that was a killer episode. And again, just the way that you were able to articulate your words and go down these journeys and share the stories and the true advice and authenticity, huge stuff. I know that it connected with me. It does with the audience as well. So thanks again, my friend, for taking the time and for doing this to me. It was a pleasure.
Thoroughly enjoyed it, man.
Awesome. And everybody, as always, thank you for your time and attention, your love and support. If you like what we're doing with Real Estate Titans, don't forget to like and subscribe. You do know what to do at this point, but I got to say it anyway. And our sponsor, Lion Bolt Media, I have to give them a quick shout out. If you are in the real estate business and you're looking to grow and scale that with leading edge digital marketing, visit lionboltmedia.com for more information. Now, we're live here on Real Estate Titans every Tuesday afternoon, a different Titan, a different location. We'll catch everybody in the next live episode of Real Estate Titans. Take care. Thanks, Mark.